The celebration in Geneva lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, watching world leaders shake hands and embrace. Champagne flowed freely. Cameras flashed. Humanity had finally received the signal they had been waiting for since the first radio telescope pointed at the stars. Contact. Proof that they were not alone. The message had been clear and simple. The Galactic Council welcomed Earth to join the community of intelligent species. A formal meeting would follow. Diplomatic channels would open. Humanity's long isolation was over. Sarah should have felt joy. Instead, a cold weight settled in her stomach as she read the detailed transmission data. Something felt wrong. The message was too formal, too brief. It felt like a form letter, not a greeting between friends. When the Council's ship arrived 3 days later, it didn't land. It simply appeared in high orbit, a massive structure that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. A single shuttle descended to a prepared landing site in Switzerland. The alien ambassador was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. It wore no protective suit, breathing Earth's air without concern. Its eyes were too large, too dark, and they seemed to look through people rather than at them. "I am Ambassador Kelrin of the Galactic Council," it said through a translation device. "I bring greetings from the civilized galaxy." The human diplomats smiled and bowed. They had practiced this moment for weeks. President Martinez stepped forward, ready to deliver his prepared speech about friendship and cooperation. Kelrin raised one long-fingered hand. "There is no time for pleasantries. You need to understand your situation immediately." The room fell silent. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. "Your world sits in what we call the dead zone," Kelrin continued, "a region of space under siege by an enemy we cannot defeat. The Devourers consume everything in their path, planets, stars, entire civilizations. They have been advancing through this sector for 200 of your years." President Martinez's smile faltered. "But surely with your technology the Council can—" "The Council has already decided," Kelrin interrupted. "This entire sector has been quarantined, sealed. We constructed a barrier network at the edge of the dead zone 50 years ago. Nothing gets in. Nothing gets out. The sacrifice of this region buys time for the rest of the galaxy." Sarah's legs felt weak. She grabbed the edge of a table for support. "You're saying we're trapped here?" asked the Chinese premier, his voice shaking. "Yes, with the Devourers." "Then evacuate us!" President Martinez shouted. "You have ships, you have the technology. Take us out of here." Kelrin's large eyes blinked slowly. "Impossible. Earth's population is nearly 12 billion. We would need thousands of transport ships. The operation would take decades. We would have to open the barrier. The Devourers would escape. We cannot risk the rest of the galaxy for one primitive world." The word primitive hung in the air like poison. "How long do we have?" Sarah heard herself ask. Kelrin turned those terrible eyes toward her. "Our projections indicate the Devourer vanguard will reach your system in 8 to 10 years. When they arrive, they will consume your world completely. Nothing will remain. Not your cities, not your oceans, not even your atoms. They will feed on everything and move on. There must be something we can do," President Martinez said. "Weapons, strategies, share your knowledge with us." "To what purpose?" Kelrin asked. "The Council has fought the Devourers for 3,000 years. Our greatest military minds have tried every strategy. Our most powerful weapons barely slow them down. You have nuclear fission and chemical rockets. What could you possibly do that we have not already attempted?" Sarah felt anger rising through her fear. "So you came here just to tell us we're going to die?" "I came here as a courtesy," Kelrin said. "The Council debated whether to inform you at all. Some argued it would be kinder to let you remain ignorant until the end. But I convinced them that every intelligent species deserves to know the truth. You have time to make peace with your fate, to say your goodbyes, to die with dignity." "Get out," President Martinez said quietly. "I understand your anger. Get out." Martinez roared. "Get off our planet. Go back to your council. Tell them we received their message. Tell them we understand perfectly." Kelrin stood motionless for a moment. Then it nodded slowly. "I am sorry. For what it is worth, I truly am. We all wish there was another way." "But there isn't," Sarah said bitterly. "So you write us off. Billions of lives, and we're just acceptable losses." "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few," Kelrin replied. It is basic mathematics. It's murder, Sarah said. Kelrin walked toward the exit. At the door, it paused and looked back. I hope your final years are peaceful. I hope you find comfort in each other. And I hope when the end comes that it is swift. Then it was gone. The shuttle lifted off 30 minutes later. The council ship vanished from orbit an hour after that. They left behind no technology, no weapons, no hope. Only a detailed scan of the approaching Devourer fleet and a map showing exactly how much time humanity had left. That night, Sarah stood on her apartment balcony in Geneva, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued as if Earth didn't exist. Trillions of beings living their lives safe behind their barrier, content to let humanity die. Her phone buzzed. A message from the UN Secretary General. Emergency session at dawn. All scientific advisors required. Sarah looked at the stars a moment longer. She thought about Kelrin's final words. Die with dignity. Make peace with your fate. She thought about humanity's history. Every war, every struggle, every impossible situation where people were told to give up and accept defeat. Humanity had never been very good at dying quietly. Sarah went inside and started packing. She had work to do. They all did. 8 years wasn't much time, but it was something. And if the galaxy thought humanity would simply roll over and wait for extinction, they were about to learn they had made a terrible mistake. The celebration had lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. The war preparations would begin at dawn. The factory had been a car manufacturing plant just 6 months ago. Now it produced warheads. Marcus Webb walked through the massive facility, watching robotic arms assemble weapons at speeds that would have been impossible before the abandonment. That's what everyone called it now. Not first contact or the council meeting. Just the abandonment. We're hitting quotas, his supervisor said, shouting over the machinery noise. 3,000 units per day. The new reactors are online, so we can double that next month. Marcus nodded, but he wasn't really listening. He was thinking about his daughter. She was 7 years old. In 8 years, no, 7.5 now, she would be 15. If the projections were right, she would never see 16. Webb, are you listening? Marcus snapped back to attention. Yes, double production. Good. His supervisor's expression softened. Everyone understood the distraction. Everyone had someone they were trying to save. Parents thought about children. Children thought about parents, and all of them tried not to think about the fact that saving might be impossible. The world had changed faster than anyone thought possible. Within weeks of the abandonment, every nation on Earth had dissolved its military into a single unified force. The United Earth Defense Initiative, UEDI. No more borders, no more politics. Just survival. Money meant nothing anymore. The global economy had simply stopped. People worked because they had to, because working kept them from thinking too much. Factories ran 24 hours a day. Scientists shared every secret they had once guarded. Engineers collaborated across continents without pause, and everyone was building weapons. Marcus left the factory and drove toward the research campus that had once been Stanford University, the place where Dr. Sarah Chen had relocated after Geneva. The place where humanity's smartest minds were trying to figure out how to kill something the galaxy considered unkillable. Security waved him through. Everyone knew Marcus. He was the lead engineer on Project Hammer, one of dozens of weapons programs running simultaneously. Sarah was in her lab, staring at a holographic display showing the Devourers. The council had left them that much at least. Detailed scans and data. Know your enemy, even if you can't beat them. The Devourers looked like a nightmare given form, part machine, part organic tissue, constantly shifting and adapting. They moved through space in swarms, millions of individual units that somehow functioned as one mind. They consumed matter and converted it to energy, then used that energy to create more of themselves. They're perfect, Sarah said without looking up. From a certain perspective, the ultimate form of life, efficient, adaptable, unstoppable. Nothing's unstoppable, Marcus replied. Sarah finally turned to look at him. She had aged 10 years in the last 6 months. They all had. The Council has weapons that can crack planets. They have shields that can withstand stars going supernova. They've been fighting for 3,000 years, Marcus. What do we have that they don't? Marcus pulled up his tablet and showed her the schematics. Desperation, creativity, and complete willingness to ignore every rule of civilized warfare. Sarah studied the designs. Her eyes widened. Marcus, this is insane. You're talking about weaponizing entire asteroids, turning them into kinetic bombs traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, Marcus finished. The Council wouldn't do it because it's barbaric and would destabilize orbits. We don't care. We attach engines to every large asteroid in the belt, point them at the enemy, and hit the accelerator. The energy calculations alone are possible with the new fusion reactors. We have 37 of them online now, more coming every week. Sarah sat down heavily. We're turning our entire solar system into a weapons platform. That's exactly what we're doing. The moon is being hollowed out for manufacturing. Mars will be our second line of defense. We're building a fleet of ships that are basically flying bombs. No crew, no life support, just engines, weapons, and AI guidance systems. The Council will see this as proof we're primitive. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. The Council abandoned us. Their opinion doesn't matter anymore. Sarah pulled up another display. This one showed Earth itself. Red zones marked where entire regions had been converted to military production. We're destroying our world to save it. Better than letting the Devourers do it. There was a long silence. Then Sarah said, I've been running simulations. The Devourer Vanguard will arrive in 7 years and 4 months. Best case scenario, with everything we're building, we might stop the Vanguard. But there are more behind them. Millions more. Even if we win the first battle, we'll lose the war. So we make every battle count, Marcus said. We make them pay for every inch. We make them remember us. Remember us? Marcus, they don't have memory the way we do. They're a hive mind. Individual deaths mean nothing. Then we'll kill the hive. Sarah shook her head. You're talking about something the Council couldn't do in 3 millennia. The Council was trying to fight and preserve their civilization at the same time. We have nothing left to preserve. We can go all in. Another silence. Then Sarah pulled up a new file. There's something else. Project Prometheus. It's classified at the highest levels. Only a few dozen people know about it. What is it? Our contingency plan. If we lose, if the Devourers break through our defenses and reach Earth, we turn the planet into a weapon. The entire crust has been seeded with fusion bombs. We detonate them all simultaneously. Earth becomes a miniature supernova. It won't stop the Devourers, but it will destroy their vanguard. Buy time for someone, somewhere. Marcus felt sick. We'd kill everyone. Everyone's dead anyway if the Devourers land. This way, at least we take them with us. Who authorized this? Everyone. Every world leader. Every military commander. We took a vote. It was unanimous. Marcus walked to the window. Outside, he could see construction crews working through the night, building massive railguns that would launch payloads into orbit. Further away, lights marked where thousands of people were working to construct the Titan Line, a defensive perimeter that would make the Maginot Line look like a children's fort. My daughter draws pictures, he said quietly. She draws Earth with all these colorful shields protecting it. She thinks we're going to be okay. She thinks the grown-ups will figure it out. Maybe we will, Sarah said, but her voice held no conviction. Do you have any good news? Anything at all? Sarah considered. The AI development is ahead of schedule. We'll have autonomous weapons systems online within a year. And the genetic modification programs are showing promise. We might be able to create soldiers who can survive in extreme conditions. Designer soldiers, super weapons, planetary bombs. Marcus turned back to her. We're becoming monsters to fight monsters. Yes, Sarah agreed. But we're becoming monsters who might survive. The galaxy wrote us off. They think we're going to die quietly. I say we prove them wrong. Marcus looked at his tablet again, at the schematics for weapons that would horrify any civilized species. Then he thought about his daughter's drawings. her colorful shields. How long until the first Devourer scouts reach the outer solar system? 18 months. Then we have 18 months to finish the Titan line, to deploy the asteroid weapons, to show them what happens when you abandon humanity. Sarah smiled grimly. We sent a message to the council yesterday. Just one line. What did it say? Come and take it. Marcus laughed. This time there was a bit of real humor in it. They're going to regret abandoning us. If we're very lucky and very clever, Sarah said, they're going to regret it for a very long time. Commander Lisa Park watched the tactical display as the first Devourer scout entered the Kuiper Belt. It was smaller than expected. Maybe the size of a bus, but the sensors showed it was scanning everything in range. Target acquired, the weapons officer reported. Distance 900,000 kilometers. Hold fire, Lisa ordered. Let it come closer. Her crew shifted nervously. They had been waiting for this moment for 2 years. Training in simulators, running drills, preparing for an enemy they had only seen in council recordings. Now it was here. Real. Deadly. The Devourer moved deeper into the solar system, passing the first ring of detection satellites. It didn't try to hide. Why would it? The council data said Devourers had never encountered meaningful resistance. They were the apex predator of the galaxy. 800,000 kilometers, the weapons officer said. Lisa's hand hovered over the firing control. Around her ship, another 40 vessels held the same position. Silent. Waiting. The Devourer had no idea it was flying into an ambush. 700,000. The Devourer suddenly changed course. Moving faster now. It had detected something. Maybe the heat signatures from the ships. Maybe the faint radiation from their reactors. It didn't matter. All ships, Lisa commanded. Fire. Space lit up with fire. Missiles, railgun rounds, laser bursts, everything humanity had built came screaming toward the single Devourer scout. The creature tried to evade, its form shifting and changing, but there was nowhere to go. Too many weapons, too many angles. The first impact tore off a section of its hull. The second punched through its core. The third, fourth, and fifth turned it into expanding debris. Target destroyed, the weapons officer said, his voice shaking with excitement. The crew erupted in cheers. First blood. First kill. Humanity had just proven that Devourers could die. Lisa didn't cheer. She watched the debris cloud carefully. Keep sensors active. Watch for any pieces that are still moving. Commander, it's dead. We obliterated it. Just watch. 30 seconds later, the sensors picked up movement. 3 pieces of debris, each no bigger than a basketball, suddenly activated. They began moving independently, trying to escape the kill zone. Secondary targets, Lisa ordered. Take them out, the fleet fired again. This time they kept firing until nothing remained but atoms. That's what the council data meant, Lisa said quietly. They adapt. They survive. You can't just kill them once. You have to make sure nothing remains. The celebration died down. The crew understood now. This wasn't going to be like wars they studied in history. This enemy didn't surrender, didn't negotiate, didn't die easily. Over the next 6 months, the Devourers sent more scouts. Humanity killed them all, but each time the scouts were different. Faster, tougher, learning from the previous failures. Then the Vanguard arrived. Admiral James Morrison stood on the bridge of the UED's Defiance, watching as the Devourer fleet emerged from deep space. The tactical display showed hundreds of contacts. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands, my God, someone whispered. All stations battle ready, Morrison ordered. Activate the Titan line. Across the outer solar system, humanity's defenses came online. Massive weapon platforms that had taken years to build. Automated missile batteries by the millions. Nuclear mines drifting in carefully planned patterns. And the fleet. 200 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. Against the Council, it would have been impressive. Against the Devourers, it looked pathetically small. They're not slowing down, the tactical officer reported. They're coming straight at us. Then we give them a proper welcome, Morrison said. Activate Hammer Protocol. Deep in the asteroid belt, engines ignited. Humanity had spent 2 years selecting the largest asteroids, hollowing them out and filling them with engines and guidance systems. Now those asteroids began accelerating toward the Devourer fleet. The Devourers didn't even try to dodge. They thought they were invincible. The first asteroid hit at 40% of light speed. The impact released energy equivalent to 1 trillion tons of TNT. It tore through the Devourer formation like a bullet through paper. Hundreds of Devourer units simply ceased to exist. Then the second asteroid hit, then the third, then the fourth. The Devourer fleet began to scatter, finally recognizing the threat. But humanity had launched 60 asteroids. They couldn't dodge them all. When the bombardment ended, nearly a quarter of the Devourer vanguard was destroyed. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. Phase 2. Launch the fleet. The human warships surged forward. They didn't fight like the Council fleets. No formation flying, no honor duels. They attacked like wolves in packs, targeting wounded Devourers and obliterating them before moving to the next target. And when a human ship was damaged beyond repair, it didn't retreat. It accelerated toward the densest concentration of Devourers and detonated its reactor. The battle raged for 3 days. In the end, the Titan line fell. Humanity lost 60% of its fleet. The automated weapons were destroyed. The defensive platforms were consumed, but the Devourer vanguard was shattered. Of the 15,000 units that had entered the solar system, fewer than 3,000 survived, and those survivors were different now, cautious. They had learned that humanity was dangerous. Morrison stood in the wreckage of the Defiance's bridge, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Half his crew was dead. The ship was crippled, but they had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. Pull back to Mars, he ordered. We need to regroup. The surviving ships limped away from the battlefield. Behind them, the Devourers began consuming the debris field, incorporating human technology into themselves. Learning. On Mars, Sarah Chen watched the battle reports with mixed feelings. They had stopped the vanguard, but the cost was enormous. And the Council data said this was just the first wave. More were coming. Marcus found her in the command center. We did it, he said. We actually did it. We survived one battle, Sarah corrected. The war is just beginning, but we proved we can fight them. We proved the Council was wrong. Sarah pulled up a new display. It showed deep space far beyond the solar system. There, moving slowly but inevitably toward them, was the main Devourer fleet. It made the vanguard look like a scouting party. We proved we can survive, Sarah said. Now we need to prove we can win. Marcus studied the display. The numbers were impossible. Even with everything they had built, everything they had sacrificed, the main fleet would overwhelm them. What if we can't? He asked quietly. Sarah thought about Project Prometheus, about turning Earth itself into a weapon, about the fact that they had already crossed lines no civilized species would cross. Then we make sure they remember us, she said. We make sure the galaxy knows that humanity didn't die quietly, that we fought with everything we had, that abandoning us was a mistake. The Council won't care. Maybe not, but maybe some species in the galaxy will hear our story. Maybe they'll learn something from it, that you can't just abandon people and expect them to die conveniently. Marcus looked at the display again, at the massive fleet moving toward them, at the tiny dot that represented Earth. My daughter is 14 now, he said. 1 more year and she would have been the age the Council said we'd all be dead. Is she safe? As safe as anyone can be. She's in the deep bunkers under Beijing, learning to fly fighters of all things. She wants to be a pilot when she grows up. Sarah didn't point out that there might not be a when she grows up. They both knew the odds. The next battle will be at Mars, Marcus said. We've fortified it as best we can. If we lose there, then we fall back to Earth, Sarah finished, and we activate Prometheus. No second chances, Sarah agreed. But Marcus, I'm glad we fought. Even if we lose, I'm glad we didn't just give up. Marcus nodded. Outside the command center, the lights of the Martian defense installations glittered like stars. Weapons and soldiers in desperate hope, all preparing for a battle that would decide humanity's fate. In the distance, beyond sight but drawing ever closer, the Devourers came, patient, hungry, confident. They had no idea what they were about to face. The message reached the Galactic Council chambers on a routine monitoring sweep. An automated probe at the edge of the dead zone had picked up unusual energy signatures. High-intensity weapons fire, nuclear detonations, things that shouldn't be possible. Counselor Vren studied the data with growing confusion. The probe's readings showed combat, massive combat, but that was impossible. The Devourers didn't fight each other and there was nothing else alive in the dead zone. Except Earth. Pull up the quarantine zone records, Vren ordered his assistant. Find the file on the human homeworld. The file appeared. Earth, third planet. Carbon-based life. Technology level, primitive. Estimated time to devourer consumption, 8 to 10 years. Current status written off. Vren checked the date. 9 years had passed since Ambassador Kelrin's visit. Humans should be dead. Run a deep scan of the sector, Vren commanded. I want to know what's happening in there. The scan took 6 hours. When the results came back, Vren stared at them in disbelief. Then checked them again. Then ordered a third scan to confirm. The Devourer Vanguard that had entered the human system was destroyed. Not damaged, not delayed. Destroyed. Get me the Council Military Command, Vren said. Now. Within hours, the Council's highest military officials were reviewing the data. The mood in the chamber was tense. This can't be right, General Thross said. He was a veteran of 500 years of combat against the Devourers. The humans had nothing. Chemical rockets. Nuclear fission. They were centuries behind us. The data doesn't lie, Vren replied. They stopped the Vanguard. How? Vren pulled up the tactical analysis. They used kinetic weapons. Accelerated asteroids to relativistic speeds. The Devourers never encountered that tactic because we consider it too destructive. It destabilizes orbits, causes long-term damage to systems. The humans didn't care about long-term damage, another counselor observed. They were fighting for survival. General Thross studied the battle recordings. They also used suicide attacks, ships deliberately destroying themselves to take out clusters of Devourers. No escape pods, no retreat, just sacrifice. The chamber fell silent. The Council had fought the Devourers for millennia, always trying to minimize casualties, always preserving their forces. The idea of deliberately throwing away ships and crews was horrifying. There's more, Vren said quietly. The probe detected transmissions. The humans are preparing for another attack. They've fortified their fourth planet. They're building new weapons. They're not running. They're not hiding. They're preparing to fight again. Against the main Devourer fleet? Thross looked at the numbers. That's suicide. The main fleet will crush them. Perhaps, Vren said. But they survived when we said they couldn't. What if they survive again? The implications hung in the air. If humans could stop the Devourers, then the Council's entire strategy was wrong. The quarantine. The abandonment. The sacrifice of billions. All based on the assumption that resistance was futile. Counselor Kess spoke up. She was old even by Council standards, and her voice carried weight. If the humans succeed, our decision to abandon them becomes problematic. Problematic? Vren asked. We condemned them to death to save the rest of the galaxy. We told ourselves it was necessary, logical. If they prove they could have been saved, if they prove the Devourers can be stopped, then we're not saviors. We're cowards who abandoned billions to save ourselves from risk. The chamber erupted in argument. Some counselors defended the decision. Others questioned it. All of them understood the political disaster that would unfold if humans succeeded. General Thross raised his hand for silence. There's a simple solution. We send a fleet into the dead zone. We offer humanitarian aid. We evacuate the humans to safety. The quarantine, someone began, is already compromised if the humans are fighting effectively. We go in, we save them. We bring them out. And we make sure the story that reaches the galaxy is about Council heroism, not Council abandonment. Vren felt his stomach turn. You're talking about rewriting history. I'm talking about preventing a catastrophe, Thross replied. If humans survive on their own, every species in the Council will question our leadership. There will be investigations, trials. Our government could collapse. But if we rescue them, if we're the heroes of this story, then none of that happens. And if the humans don't want to be rescued? Vren asked. If they're angry about being abandoned? Thross's expression hardened. Then we make sure they don't get the chance to tell their story. We say the Devourers killed them. We say we arrived too late. The probe data can be classified. No one needs to know the truth. Vren looked around the chamber. Too many counselors were nodding. Too many agreed with Thross's plan. You're talking about genocide, Vren said quietly. I'm talking about survival, Thross corrected. The Council's survival. The galaxy's survival. We made a hard choice 9 years ago. Now we make another hard choice. The vote was called. The majority supported Thross's plan. Send a fleet to the dead zone under the pretense of humanitarian rescue. If humans cooperated, save them and control the narrative. If they didn't cooperate, eliminate them and blame the devourers. Vren voted against it. So did a handful of others. But they were the minority. You're making a terrible mistake, Vren warned. The humans survived the devourers. What makes you think you can defeat them? They're one primitive species, Thros replied. We're the combined military might of the galaxy. It's not even a contest, the fleet assembled quickly. 300 warships all equipped with weapons that could shatter planets. They would enter the dead zone, make contact with Earth, and resolve the human problem one way or another. On the flagship, General Thros reviewed the mission parameters. Make peaceful contact. Offer evacuation. If refused, assess human military capability. If that capability posed a threat to Council secrecy, eliminate it. Simple, clean, efficient. Thros had fought the devourers for centuries. He had seen entire civilizations consumed. He had made hard choices before. This was just one more. The fleet entered the dead zone 3 weeks later. They sent a transmission ahead announcing their arrival. Humanitarian mission, rescue operation. Help has arrived. The human response came 6 hours later. It was brief. Council fleet, this is United Earth Defense Command. Your offer is noted and rejected. You abandoned us to die. We survived. We don't need your help now. Turn back, Thros read the message twice. Then he ordered his communications officer to respond. Earth Defense Command, we understand your anger. But the main Devourer fleet is approaching. You cannot survive it alone. Please reconsider. We can save you. The human response was even shorter. We don't trust you, and we're not leaving our home. Go away, Thros conferred with his officers. The consensus was clear. Humans were hostile, potentially dangerous if their weapons technology had advanced. The risk to Council security was high. Prepare for combat operations, Thros ordered. Target their military installations. We'll neutralize their capability and then decide what to do with survivors. The fleet advanced toward Earth, weapons charging. Long-range sensors detected the human defenses around Mars, primitive railguns, nuclear missiles. Nothing that could threaten Council shields. This would be quick. Then the sensors picked up something else. Energy signatures emerging from Earth's moon. Hundreds of them. Ships? Weapons platforms? The readings were unclear. Identify those contacts, Thros ordered. Before the sensors could respond, space lit up with weapons fire. Not from Mars, not from Earth, from everywhere. The moon, the asteroid belt. Hidden platforms scattered throughout the system. Humans hadn't been preparing to defend one planet. They had turned their entire solar system into a fortress, and they had just fired every weapon they had at the Council fleet. Thros watched in shock as his shields flared under impact. These weren't primitive weapons. The humans had adapted, learned, evolved. All ships return fire, he commanded. Show them what happens when you challenge the Council. The battle began. Council warships against human desperation. Advanced technology against improvised weapons. Experience against fury. In the command center on Mars, Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They came to finish what they started. Let's show them they picked the wrong species to betray. Marcus stood beside her. We can't win this, can we? No, Sarah admitted. But we can make them regret coming here. We can make them bleed, and maybe, just maybe, we can make sure the galaxy finds out what really happened. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Marcus confirmed. Every transmission. Every battle report. Every piece of evidence of Council betrayal. It's all going out. If any species in the galaxy is listening, they'll hear our story. Sarah nodded. Then let's make it a story worth telling. The battle had raged for 16 hours when something changed. Admiral Morrison watched from his damaged ship as Council vessels continued their assault on Mars. Human defenses were failing. Shields collapsing. Weapons running dry. They had hurt the Council fleet badly. Destroyed nearly 50 ships, but it wasn't enough. Then the sensors picked up new contacts. More Council reinforcements? Someone asked desperately. Morrison studied the signatures. No, those are devourers. The main devourer fleet had arrived early, drawn by the massive energy signatures of the battle. Thousands of biomechanical horrors emerged from deep space, moving with terrifying purpose. For a moment, everything stopped. Council ships ceased firing. Human forces held position. Both sides stared at the approaching swarm. Then the devourers attacked. But they didn't attack the humans. They went straight for the Council fleet. "What are they doing?" Morrison's tactical officer shouted. "Why are they ignoring us?" Sarah's voice came over the command channel from Mars. "I think I know. We've been fighting them for 9 years. We've adapted to their tactics. They've adapted to ours. We've reached a kind of equilibrium. But the Council? The Council represents every species that's been fighting them for 3,000 years. The Council is the real threat." Morrison watched as Devourer swarms tore into Council formations. General Thross's fleet found itself fighting on 2 fronts, Council against Devourers, and behind them waiting were the humans. "What do we do?" Morrison asked. "Help the Council. Let the Devourers destroy them." There was a long pause. Then Sarah spoke. "Neither. We hit them both. It was insane. Suicidal. They were already losing against the Council alone. Fighting both enemies at once guaranteed destruction. But humanity had never been very good at taking the logical path. "All ships," Morrison ordered, "target both enemy forces. Show them what happens when you fight humanity on our home ground." The human fleet surged forward. Damaged ships, depleted ammunition, wounded crews. They attacked anyway. Morrison's ship fired its last missiles at a Council cruiser, then rammed into a cluster of Devourers. The impact tore the ship apart, but it took 20 Devourer units with it. On Mars, Marcus led a ground team to manually activate the defense platforms that had lost power. He knew it was probably his last day alive. His daughter was safe in the deep bunkers, and that was all that mattered. The railguns roared back to life, firing solid slugs at both Council and Devourer targets. No discrimination, no mercy, just violence. In the Council flagship, General Thross tried to comprehend what was happening. His fleet was being torn apart by Devourers while humans attacked from behind. His shields were failing. His weapons were running hot. And worst of all, he was receiving reports that the human transmissions were reaching the outer galaxy. Other species were hearing Earth's story, learning about the abandonment, watching as the Council fleet tried to eliminate the witnesses. "Pull back," Thross ordered. "We need to retreat and regroup." But there was nowhere to retreat to. The Devourers blocked the exit vector. Humans blocked another route, and the main Devourer fleet was still arriving, more and more units pouring into the system. Thross realized with cold certainty that he was going to die here, that his fleet was going to be destroyed, and that the humans somehow had arranged it perfectly. On Mars, Sarah watched 3 massive battle groups converge on each other. Council, Devourers, humans. A 3-way fight to the death, with Earth itself as the prize. "Activate Prometheus," she said quietly. Marcus looked at her in shock. "We're not dead yet." "There's still a chance." "There's no chance," Sarah interrupted. "Look at the numbers. Even if we kill both fleets, more Devourers are coming. We can't stop them all. But we can make sure this moment matters. We can make sure the galaxy remembers." Marcus thought about his daughter, about all the children in the bunkers, about humanity's last stand. He activated the protocol. Deep beneath Earth's surface, fusion bombs began their countdown. Thousands of them, seeded throughout the planet's crust. When they detonated, they would tear the world apart and create a blast wave that would consume everything in near-Earth space. Council, Devourers, humans, all of them would die together. 30 minutes, Sarah announced over all channels, broadcasting to both enemy fleets. 30 minutes until Earth becomes a weapon. "If you want to live, run. If you want to fight, stay and die with us." The response was immediate. Council ships tried to disengage, desperate to escape. But the Devourers wouldn't let them. The swarm pressed forward, consuming, adapting, killing. Some Council ships managed to break free, fleeing at maximum speed. Others were caught, torn apart by Devourers or destroyed by human weapons. General Thross's flagship was crippled, engines dead. He watched the countdown timer with something like respect. The humans had lost, but they refused to lose alone. "Broadcast to all Council channels," Thross ordered. "Tell them the truth. Tell them what we did here. Tell them we were wrong." His communications officer stared at him. "Sir, that's an order? No more lies. Let the galaxy know that humans fought harder than any species in Council history, that they deserve to be saved, that abandoning them was a mistake we'll regret forever." The message went out across Council networks, a general's confession. The truth about the abandonment and the attempted cover-up. Across the galaxy, species received the transmission, heard the story, learned what the council had done. On Earth, in a bunker deep under Beijing, Marcus's daughter sat with thousands of other children. They had been told this day might come, that Earth might have to become a weapon, that they might not survive. She wasn't crying. None of them were. They had been preparing for this their whole lives. Instead, she drew one last picture. Earth with its colorful shields surrounded by ships fighting until the very end. On Mars, Sarah and Marcus stood together watching the countdown. "We should have died 9 years ago," Marcus said. "Everything after the abandonment was bonus time." "We used it well," Sarah replied. "We showed the galaxy that humanity doesn't quit, that we fight, that we matter. Think anyone will remember. The Council will. Every species that heard our transmissions will. We made sure of that. 10 minutes remaining. The Devourer swarm was less than 1,000,000 kilometers from Earth now. They could sense the energy building in the planet. They knew what was coming, but they couldn't stop. Their nature demanded they consume, advance, feed. 5 minutes. The last Council ships cleared the blast zone. Behind them, thousands of Devourers followed, chasing, hunting. 1 minute. Sarah took Marcus's hand. "Thank you for fighting beside me. Thank you for giving us a chance to fight at all." 30 seconds. Around the world, in bunkers and shelters, millions of humans held their breath. 10 seconds. Sarah thought about Ambassador Kelrin, about those words 9 years ago. Die with dignity. 5 seconds. They hadn't died with dignity. They had died with fury. 0. Earth exploded. The fusion bombs detonated simultaneously, tearing the planet's crust apart. The energy release was beyond calculation. It propagated outward at light speed, a sphere of destruction that consumed everything in its path. The remaining Devourer vanguard was vaporized instantly. The Council ships that hadn't fled fast enough were caught in the blast wave. Mars's surface was scoured clean. And in the expanding debris field that had once been humanity's home, something strange happened. The Devourers stopped. The main fleet, still millions of kilometers away, suddenly changed course. They turned away from the solar system and headed back into deep space. It took the Council analysts 3 days to understand why. The Devourers, in their own way, had learned something. They had learned that some prey was too costly to hunt, that some species would rather destroy themselves than be consumed. The Devourers had infinite patience. They could wait for easier targets. On a Council observation ship at the edge of the dead zone, Counselor Vren watched the recordings of Earth's final moments. He had opposed Thross's mission. He had warned them. Now he was one of the few Council members who could claim clean hands. The recordings showed human ships fighting to the last. Children in bunkers, not crying but drawing pictures. A species that had chosen annihilation over submission. Vren ordered the recordings preserved, copied, distributed to every Council member world. Within weeks, the political fallout began. Species questioned the Council's leadership. Some called for investigations. Others called for trials. The Council's unity began to fracture. And in the chaos, 3 species quietly left the Council. Small civilizations who had been saved from extinction centuries ago, who remembered what it was like to be abandoned. They released statements condemning the Council's actions. Humanity deserved better. Their joint declaration read, "We will remember them. We will honor their sacrifice, and we will ensure the galaxy never forgets what happens when we abandon those who need help." In the ruins of the solar system, automated probes found something unexpected. Deep underground bunkers on Mars, shielded by kilometers of rock, had survived. Inside were cryogenic pods, thousands of them. Humans, children mostly. A seed population. One final gambit. They had known Earth would die, but they had hoped that someone, eventually, would find the survivors and give them a chance. The Council faced a choice. Leave them to die or admit responsibility and save them. Public pressure forced their hand. Under the watchful eyes of the breakaway species, Council ships entered the dead zone and retrieved the pods. 15,000 humans survived. It was a fraction of what had been lost, but it was something. As the survivors were transported to a new world far from the dead zone, they carried with them humanity's story. The abandonment, the war, the final stand. They would rebuild, they would grow, and they would never forget what the Council had done. In a classroom on New Earth 50 years later, an old woman told young students about the homeworld, about the war, about the day humanity became something the galaxy could never ignore. "We were abandoned," she said. "We were told to die quietly. Instead, we fought so loud that the entire galaxy heard us, and nothing was ever the same again." The students listened, wide-eyed. Outside the window, human ships patrolled the system. Not alone. They flew alongside ships from the breakaway species, the ones who had stood by humanity when the Council would not. The old woman smiled. She had been 7 years old when her father put her in the cryopod. She had survived to see humanity's second chance. "Remember," she told her students, "we survived because we refused to quit, because we fought when fighting seemed impossible. That's what it means to be human. We never give up, we never surrender, and we never forget those who abandoned us." In the galaxy beyond, the Council remained. Diminished, questioned, changed. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Devourers continued their slow advance, moving toward new prey. But they remembered Earth. They remembered the species that had chosen to die fighting rather than die begging. And for the first time in their existence, the Devourers felt something almost like respect.